He woke up next to 3 colleagues, the 3 phone calls that followed. Shocked HR. You think you know what a bad day is? A flat tire? A missed deadline? Finding out your favorite takeout spot is closed. Cute, right? Because none of that compares to the day I woke up feeling like a Greek god, enjoyed a blissful brunch with the girl of my dreams, and then received what I can only describe as a triple pregnancy shot. It all began with a phone call. I was still basking in that post-party glow that makes a person feel utterly invincible. My hand rested on Angie, my colleague, my secret love, my unattainable dream girl, who was still asleep. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was Heather. I picked up the line, trying to sound calm, like a guy who routinely hosts 3 stunning women after a corporate event. I tried to remind myself to maintain my cool and definitely not mention the intensity of the party. Heather wasted no time on pleasantries. Her voice, usually sharp and sarcastic, was surprisingly flat. She delivered the news. She was pregnant. The air evacuated my lungs. My blood turned to ice water. Pregnant. Okay, one problem. A massive, all-consuming HR nightmare of a problem, but only one. I was trying to process this absolute corporate horror show when the phone buzzed again, this time with a text message. It was Lena, a double threat. 2 women, 1 night, 2 potential children. I ran a hand through my hair, my heart pounding in my chest. Angie stirred. I was about to open my mouth to realize the fact that my life had officially become a tragicomic sitcom when my phone rang a 3rd time. Private number. I answered, my voice barely a whisper. And that was when, my friends, Angie woke up, grabbed my arm, and began to scream as I relayed the details of the 3rd woman, the 3rd positive test, and the total unprecedented nuclear disaster my life had become. This is the story of how my desperate, innocent crush on a coworker led to 3 pregnancies, multiple legal threats, an emergency HR meeting, and somehow, miraculously, the best relationship of my life. Buckle up. My name is, and for the last 1.5 years, my existence revolved around 2 things: writing surprisingly efficient Python scripts and wistfully staring at Angie. We worked at a massive publicly traded tech firm where the budget for the ping-pong room was higher than the GDP of some small nations. The culture was meritocratic, fast-paced, and, most importantly for this story, aggressively social. We worked hard and we partied harder. It was a sandbox where boundaries often became blurred. Angie was the senior product manager on my team. Smart? Terrifyingly so. She could dismantle a bad feature proposal faster than I could compile a debug log. Gorgeous? Absolutely. She had this laugh that started deep in her chest and finished in a bright, genuine burst. She was a star I couldn't touch. For 1 year, I played the role of the devoted, slightly awkward but reliable colleague. Lunchtime coffees, late-night debug sessions, the occasional witty Slack message that I agonized over for 45 minutes. I built up a mountain of friendship equity, quietly dying inside. The worst part about having a crush is not the rejection, but the limbo, the friend zone. It's a beautifully furnished, well-lit prison where you are given all the intimacy of a relationship-shared secrets, late-night calls, emotional support, but without the physical or romantic payoff. Angie had a boyfriend, a finance bro named Chad, for most of the year. This was my insulation. I could safely pine. But in November, Chad did what all finance bros do. He proved to be a self-centered jerk. They broke up. That's when our dynamic shifted. Late-night calls about product sprints turned into late-night calls about feelings. Coffee breaks turned into hours of emotional offloading. I became her emotional ballast, the quiet harbor after the storm. My brain was a war zone. One side screamed, "This is it! She's vulnerable! Make your move!" The other, the rational, career-driven side, waved a red flag the size of a bedsheet. "Do not mix work, heartbreak, and intimacy. You will combust." I was losing that war. Every brush of her hand against my forearm, every lean in to share a secret at a bar, caused this chemical shift, this dangerous cocktail of hope and dread. I was ready to risk everything but couldn't find the moment, the social catalyst. And then came the annual corporate holiday party. Our company party was the stuff of legend. It wasn't a modest catered affair, but a black-tie gala at one of the city's largest ballrooms. We saw the internal memo, 320 attendees, and the legendary meme-worthy number, Over 2,000 drinks pre-purchased. That's more than 6 drinks per person. The expectation was not networking. The expectation was total, alcohol-fueled leveling of the playing field. I put on my best suit. I felt like an imposter. I wasn't a playboy. I was a coder who hadn't seen the sun in 3 months. I met Angie by the massive ice sculpture, which inexplicably was shaped like our company logo. She looked dazzling. She wore an emerald-colored dress. My rehearsed greeting evaporated, replaced by a slightly pathetic croak. She wasn't alone. She was with Heather and Lena, her best friends from the marketing department. Heather was cool, detached, and controlled. Lena was a firecracker, loud, infectious, and perpetually on the verge of chaos. We started innocently with champagne. It was good champagne, the kind of bubbly poison that slides down too easily and then hits you like a soft velvet hammer. I tried to practice moderation, but the combination of the ambient energy, the booming music, and Angie's proximity was grinding my caution into dust. "You're not boring," she murmured, her voice conspiratorial. "You're reliable. And you listen. That's rare. Reliable. Ouch. I wanted to be a wildfire, not a reliable anchor. "I can be unreliable," I challenged, leaning closer. The air between us was thick with perfume and possibility. "In fact, I'm already quite unreliable. I've had 3 glasses of this stuff, and I'm about to give a presentation on the Riemann hypothesis." She smiled. It was a slow, deliberate smile that bypassed my brain and went straight to my central nervous system. The next hour was a blur of exponential inebriation. I switched to whiskey sours, thinking the sugar would help me stay sharp. It did not. It just made me feel invincible and incredibly foolish. We were laughing over some idiotic joke. I think it involved the head of sales getting stuck in a revolving door when the laughter died down. We were standing close, too close for friends, but just right for what was happening. The venue's lighting shifted, bathing us in a slow, dramatic blue. I looked at her and she looked back, and there was no doubt left in her eyes. The barrier was gone. The friend zone wall had crumbled. I didn't think. I acted. I leaned in, slow and deliberate, and she met me halfway. The kiss was everything I had imagined for 18 months, soft, slightly drunk, and world-shattering. My brain short-circuited. Did that actually happen? Did I just commit career suicide in front of 300 colleagues? Was it good? Should I go for another? We pulled apart, both slightly breathless. Angie's eyes were wide, a mixture of surprise and exhilaration, and that's when I heard the giggle. Heather and Lena stood 5 feet away, arms linked, smirking like 2 Cheshire cats. "Finally," Heather whispered, just loud enough to cut through the music. "We had a bet going." Around 1 a.m., the lights came on, the universal signal that Cinderella's carriage was about to turn into a pumpkin. "After party," Angie announced, her hand slipping into mine. "The Blackout Bar downtown. You're in, right?" "Is the Pope Catholic?" I said, trying to project a casual smoothness I didn't possess. The 4 of us piled into an Uber XL. That 5-minute ride determined my destiny. Angie, without hesitation, didn't sit next to me. She sat directly on my lap. The contact was electric. She settled in, sighed, and then turned to face me, wrapping her arms around my neck. She kissed me again, deeper this time, a kiss that tasted of champagne and fate. And then came the line that detonated my entire night, 7 words that instantly became the theme of the impending catastrophe. "Tonight," she breathed into my ear, her voice husky and low, "none of us are going home alone." My brain exploded. That was it. That was the green light, the official declaration of war on my solitary life. We stumbled out of the taxi at the Blackout. The first thing I did was head to the bar, not for a casual beer, but for an energy boost and reckless abandon. 2 vodka Red Bulls, I told the bartender. This was the turning point. The champagne and whiskey were the inhibitors. The vodka Red Bull was the accelerator of bad decisions. They gave me the energy and liquid confidence to fully embody the character I needed to be to keep up with this company. I downed the first one quickly. The mix of high-octane sugar, caffeine, and liquor hit immediately. I was no longer the reliable back-end guy. I was the protagonist of a high-speed thriller. "To going home together," Angie exclaimed. The Blackout was stifling with pulsating energy. We found a small corner of the dance floor, and that's where the real madness began. I am by nature a terrible dancer. But that night, fueled by adrenaline, 4 days of pent-up desire, and a generous dose of chemically enhanced confidence, I could move. Angie was phenomenal. We were locked in a gravitational pull, but the field of play was larger than I expected. Lena, the firecracker, was right there. And then Heather, the detached one, slid in from the other side, dancing with an unexpected aggressive passion. My world tilted. It wasn't just Angie and me. It was a fluid, electric 4-person field. Boundaries dissolved faster than the ice in our cocktails. Somewhere around 3 a.m., my body started screaming for equilibrium. The rush of the vodka Red Bull faded, leaving a jittery, panicked clarity in its wake. I forced myself to stop drinking. The moment I stopped, the gravity of the situation hit me. I was surrounded by the 3 most beautiful, intoxicated, and uninhibited women from my office, and we were all heading to one place: my apartment. The final taxi ride was pure, unadulterated chaos. Angie was on my lap again, her kisses demanding. I felt like I was piloting a runaway freight train. I was overwhelmed, terrified, and more alive than ever. We tumbled out of the taxi at my place. I fumbled with the keys. I wasn't bringing one girl home. I was bringing the entire, stunning marketing package. The moment the door closed, the external pressure vanished. The atmosphere became electric and charged with possibility. The following hours were a blur of motion, heat, and disbelief. It was a spontaneous combustion. It was the drunken execution of a fantasy I never dared to voice. But in that adrenaline-fueled haze, a critical, life-altering mistake was made. My safety protocol failed. In the frantic, chaotic moments, the preventative measure failed. Panic flared. But before I could fully register the disaster, Angie, her eyes bright and reassuring, whispered a dangerous lie, making a claim about existing precautions that immediately put my mind at ease. Relax. Everything is covered. Game on. The relief was instantaneous and total. The adrenaline of the moment muffled the nagging voice of caution. I chose to believe. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the realization that I was, undoubtedly, a Greek god. 3 stunning women were in my bed. The morning light was soft, filtered through the blinds. We were quiet. The loud, drunk energy of the previous night had been replaced by a soft, slightly embarrassed intimacy. I quickly showered and began brewing every bit of coffee in my apartment. I ordered an obscene amount of breakfast, enough to feed a small army. Brunch was quiet, filled with tentative smiles and shared glances. Angie was the most radiant, her expression a mix of affection and realization. Around 11 a.m., the trio began the complicated process of gathering their party clothes and facing the outside world. "We need to disappear," Heather announced. "HR would have a field day seeing all of us walk in together." They left, leaving Angie and me alone in the ruins of my apartment. The moment the door closed, the dynamic shifted again. It was the intimacy I had craved for a year. Quiet comfort. We drifted back to bed. This was a relationship. This was the dream. We had survived the ultimate stress test. We had a secret, a gorgeous, ridiculous shared history. We were dating. I was on cloud 9. And then the calls started. It was 2:30 p.m. Angie was in the shower. I was scrolling through Slack, deleting any compromising messages, when Heather's name flashed on the screen. I assumed it would be a funny anecdote or a photo of the head of sales stuck in the door. It was not. I sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. "Look," she began, her voice sounding older, harder. "I'm not trying to mess you up. This is my reality, and now it's yours. I'm pregnant. I know, the timing is insane, but I went to the clinic today and confirmed it." My brain short-circuited again. This time, it didn't explode. It froze. But the pill," I stammered, the words tasting like copper. "Angie said—" "I'm not Angie," Heather cut in, cool and precise. "And I don't use the pill. I use a certain method that failed, and your safety protocol failed. I've wanted to be a mother for a long time. I'm not hiding this. This is not a mistake I'm going to fix. This is happening, and you're the father. We need to talk terms, seriously." The word terms hit me like a physical blow. Child support, legal fees, HR, the entire fairy tale structure of the last 12 hours disintegrated. I was still reeling, staring blankly at the wall when Angie emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. I was trying to find the words to tell her when my phone vibrated with the second incoming disaster. It was Lena. This call was different. Lena was not calm or resigned. She was emotional chaos. She was crying, hiccuping, and yelling all at once. Her panicked voice accused me of betrayal and exploitation. She was terrified, admitting she had just checked and was also pregnant. She cried that she never wanted this, was not ready, and she hated me for the situation. The threat was palpable. Her emotional state was volatile. This wasn't a cool discussion of terms. This was a high-voltage, volatile crisis carrying the threat of extreme public emotional wreckage. Two women, two distinct psychological and financial crises, all stemming from one catastrophic failure in safety protocols. I felt dizzy. I dropped the phone onto the bed, my hands shaking. Angie, sensing the absolute horror radiating from me, rushed over. "What is it? Who was that? What happened?" I couldn't speak. I could only weakly point at my phone. I took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to process the fact that my life was now less of a rom-com and more of a procedural drama involving paternity tests. I looked at Angie, the center of my universe, the cause of this beautiful, awful mess. "Angie," I began, my voice raw. "I have something to tell you. Lena, she just called. She's pregnant. And Heather, she called too. She's pregnant." Angie's expression shifted from concern to disbelief, then to utter horror. She stumbled backward, clutching her towel tighter. You're kidding." "That's not funny." "I wish it were," I mumbled, rubbing my temples. "It's not a joke. They both called. It's real. My safety measure failed, and I relied on your pill statement, and I didn't even think about Heather or Lena, and I—" That's when she started to cry. Not Lena's hysterical, explosive wail, but a quiet, defeated, heartbroken sound that was worse. "I can't believe this," she whispered, sinking to the floor. "I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I am not on the pill anymore. I stopped taking it 3 weeks ago after I broke up with Chad. I said that because I didn't want the night to end. I was reckless. I was scared. I lied." Silence. It was a silence so profound, it felt like a sound itself. Three women. 3 pregnancies. 3 lives inextricably linked to mine, all because of a night of Olympic drinking, a reckless lie, and a catastrophic safety protocol failure. The universe hadn't just punished me, it had delivered a full-scale, tactical nuclear strike on my entire future. The next week was a dizzying, terrifying descent into adult responsibility. Forget Python scripts. I was now navigating the legal code. First, HR. This was the worst-case scenario. Intimate relations with a colleague is one thing. A multi-party entanglement resulting in multiple pregnancies is a corporate ethics seminar. I spoke with a lawyer first. He was an unflappable man who looked like he had seen everything, and yet my story made him pause and adjust his glasses. Legal advice. 101. Do not acknowledge paternity to anyone but the court. Get DNA tests immediately. Do not discuss the situation at work. Document everything. Lawyer script in hand, I went to HR. The official story I gave was intentionally vague. HR, bless their tired souls, knew exactly what was going on. Rumors, of course, were already rampant, but without concrete proof, they had to treat it as a personal matter. They transferred me, a quiet, immediate move, to a subsidiary team to create distance between myself and the 3 women. My life became an emotional and legal crisis triage center. The Heather crisis, legal financial. Heather was cold, calculating, and frighteningly effective. She was proceeding with the pregnancy and wanted to establish a legal framework immediately. Our interactions were purely transactional, mostly through attorneys. It was an expensive, bureaucratic nightmare. The Lena crisis. Emotional, volatile. Lena was the opposite. She hadn't decided what she wanted. One day she threatened to sue me for emotional distress, and the next she was sobbing, confessing she was afraid of single motherhood, and asking if I could just be there for her. The Angie crisis. Love, relationship. And then there was Angie. She feared that her lie, the reckless momentary assurance about the pill, had not only ruined my life, but irrevocably poisoned the one thing she truly wanted, a relationship with me. She cried, not because she was pregnant, she took the test, she was fine, but because she felt responsible for the chaos. This, bizarrely, became the foundation of our relationship. Most relationships start with coffee, movies, and awkward first dates. Ours started with legal documents, paternity affidavits, and existential panic. Instead of running, Angie stayed. She was the only person who saw me in all my panic and horror and didn't judge. She saw the disaster I faced and helped me navigate it. She helped me draft neutral emails to HR. She sat with me while I spoke to the lawyer, holding my hand and rubbing my shoulder. She was the one who went with me to the clinic for the DNA testing, where the lawyer confirmed that, yes, I was indeed the biological father of both children. She was my moral compass. She constantly reminded me that despite the chaos, these were two innocent human beings, and I needed to be an honest father. We built our relationship not on shared passion, but on shared crisis management and unwavering honesty. Her lie caused the initial emotional chasm, but her subsequent devotion and support filled it with something deeper and stronger than mere physical attraction: genuine, mutual respect and love. Office gossip, of course, raged. We were known as the three-dad guy and the girl who started World War III, but we didn't care. We were in our own bubble, bound by the greatest secret. More than a year has passed since that holiday party. The dust has settled, or rather, the landscape has been permanently altered. I am the father of two beautiful babies, a boy, from Heather, and a girl, from Lena. They are half-siblings, united by the same disaster story, and they are, truthfully, the best parts of my life. Heather and I operate strictly as co-parents under a court-approved, highly detailed schedule. We are civilized, businesslike, and committed to giving our son a stable life. She is an excellent, organized mother, just as efficient as she was in marketing. Lena is doing better. She chose to keep the baby, and while her journey has been more emotionally volatile, she is finding herself as a mother. Our relationship is still a bit chaotic, but it is built on mutual support and commitment to our daughter. And finally, Angie. Angie and I are still together. We moved in 6 months ago. She has embraced the chaos with a ferocity that still surprises me. She is the best partner I could have ever dreamed of, serving as an incredible step-parent figure, navigating the complexities of 2 separate custody agreements, and still laughing at my terrible code jokes. We found true love in the epicenter of a human disaster. I went to a holiday party looking for a kiss. I was looking for validation for my 18-month crush. I ended up with love, a partner who proves her loyalty every single day, and 2 beautiful children who guarantee my life will never be boring, reliable, or ordinary again. Was it the craziest, most terrifying, ethically murky, and legally expensive night of my life? Absolutely. Was it worth it? When I hold my children and then turn around and see Angie smiling at me across the room, the answer is, strangely, yes. The moral of this story is simple. Corporate holiday parties can be life-changing in ways you absolutely cannot predict. Sometimes the path to your dream life runs directly through a triple pregnancy crisis. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the biggest rewards. Never be afraid to tell your story, no matter how wild it is. Thank you so much for listening to this utterly insane story. If this story made your jaw drop even once, please do me a huge favor. Give this a like. It helps more than you think. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about life, love, and professional mistakes that defy all logic. And let me know in the comments below. What is the craziest thing you've ever witnessed at a company party? I need to know I'm not the only one living in a soap opera. I'll see you in the next video.